Hello, Herkimer County. This is Michelle Hummel with the Herkimer County Chamber of Commerce. I'm here today with Dave Warner, our producer.
Hello, how are you doing today?
Very well, thank you. And we also have Eve Vandewaal, the regional president of Excellus BlueCross BlueShield. Hello, Eve.
Hello, thanks for having me today.
Oh, we're so happy to have you.
Thank you.
Now, I've known Eve for a lot of years. So I, obviously I know you, but if you could give a little background about yourself to our listeners.
Sure. So I actually am a nurse by trade, registered nurse. I graduated from nursing school in 1983, not to date myself. But I say that because when I graduated from nursing school, I was 183 on the list to get a nursing job in Utica.
Oh, my goodness.
So how things have changed.
How indeed.
Yeah,
I thought she was going to say 183 years old, and she was talking about dating. I wasn't sure.
Yeah, so I ended up having to go to Albany Med for my first job out of nursing school. But I always say everything happens for a reason because met my husband down there. Mm-hmm. So then he moved back here when I came back. So I came back to the area in 1984. So a job opened up and I came back. I was a critical care nurse until 1998 when I came to Excellus. And then I started on the front lines as a nurse analyst in the medical audit unit, and I've just worked my way up. I've been in my current role since 2008, hard to believe, but I've loved every role I've had throughout my career here. It's just a great place to work.
It is. And I will say that just to kind of give my background a little bit. I spent a good, 20 years or so in the lifetime family health care of companies,
Right.
10 at Excellus and then SSA and lifetime
Right.
benefits. So, it is absolutely a great place to work. And just to give you a plug, I started out quite literally opening some mail in the other party liability department, and I received 9 promotions in 10 years.
Wow.
So there's so much truth that you can really work your way up there.
And I meet with every new employee that works in Utica, just so they could put a face with the name and they know if I can ever advocate for them, if they have any questions. And I share my story. I'm like, you could be where I am.
Yes, you can.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's a great place to work.
Yeah,
and
it
as
is.
such, actually, this is probably a great segue into the award you recently won.
Wow. I mean, we're on cloud 9 of this. So if people that don't know, we were recently recognized by Forbes as number 2, Excellus ranked number 2 in the mid segment, which is 1,000 to 5,000 employees in the country.
Wow.
That's great.
It's a big deal.
It's a big deal. And what's even bigger about it, we didn't put in for it. We didn't apply for it. This was something that they do a survey, and they just ask multiple questions, and we got recognized and we got notified, and we're like, wow, this is awesome. So yeah,
That
so
is amazing.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah,
It
a
really
lot of
is.
companies, when they get these awards, they spend a year in advance trying to prep their employees so that when it comes to
Exactly.
survey time, you have a certain result. So that is just
Yeah.
wonderful.
It really speaks, I will tell you, it speaks to our culture. I mean, because we pride ourselves on it, not only for our customers, but for ourselves. And we've really shifted over the years. We've gotten a lot of awards. We put a lot of time into it. We now have a vice president of DEI. We have a vice president of health equity because, again, we want to do good for our community. That's our mission.
Mm-hmm. It is. Everyone knows Excellus BlueCross BlueShield in terms of insurance, but you do so much more than that.
Yeah, we really do. I mean, and as a not-for-profit, we have over 4,000 employees across the thruway. And I think what people don't realize is we are not-for-profit. So that's why we don't have to answer to shareholders, so we can put our dollars back into the community.
And you're everywhere. There's so many rounds of grants that you
Right.
do
So,
each year.
yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because we are shifting a little bit this year, but I think in a good way. So we'll still always have sponsorships. Those are available year-round. Then we have Health and Wellness Awards. So people might know them as previously as our Community Health Awards. But now we've broadened that, and those are going to be available now all year long. They were twice a year before. Now, again, you can apply just like sponsorships all year long. Then we're going to have, we started last year, a Health Equity Award. So, again, focusing on specifics. This past year, it was maternal health because there is such an inequity of Black women in maternal health. It's actually alarming. So we're putting a lot of effort into that. The BlueCross BlueShield Association is putting a lot of effort into that. So we've given out grants across the thruway in that space.
So in terms of across the thruway, could you tell our listeners what your demographic is?
Oh, sure. So we're in 39 counties in upstate New York. So in the Buffalo market, we're known as Univera. And that is because of the branding of the blues. So there can only be, well, I say this kind of tongue in cheek because there should only be one blues per region. But New York State is a little different.
As always.
Yeah. Do you want the drum roll for that?
So there are 4 counties, actually in my region, that we compete with 2 other blues, and they were grandfathered in. But normally, so we are upstate, 39 counties. The way we're structured, our headquarters are in Rochester, and then we have 5 regions. So there's Utica. We are the largest geographic region. We go all the way up to the Canadian border. We have satellite offices in Watertown and in Plattsburgh. And then we have an office in Syracuse, Binghamton, and Buffalo and Rochester. Yeah, so big footprint.
Yeah, very big footprint.
Yeah.
In rural communities, you do great. You could do great work for rural communities.
Thank you. And it's funny you say that because we treat in our region, it's really twofold. So we treat our North Country almost as a separate entity because it is so different. Even though there's 14 counties in the Utica region, we kind of separate them because in the North Country, they drive an hour to go to the grocery store.
Yeah, that's
and we have
different.
we have Hamilton County actually. We joke they have more cows than people. I mean, they're so sparse, so their needs are different. And that's why I travel a lot. Like when we give out these awards, I literally bring the big check to give the award, and I do that so I can listen to them to hear what their needs are. I mean, we had a incident up in the North Country where there was no fresh produce. So what they did is they got a bunch of community people together. They started their own community garden. They grow their produce, and then what they do in their local pharmacy, they have a section of the pharmacy set up as a pharmacy, FARMACY, and they sell fresh produce. So,
yeah, that's different. It's great.
Very different.
Yeah.
And if I didn't travel, I wouldn't know that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, again, we have such a diverse demographics.
But again, you do a great job.
Thank you.
So you touched a little bit on some of your community investments. Could you give us some more specifics about that? I know you've got a large amount of grants.
Yes.
What in particular? Could you give us an example of measurable?
Yeah, so what we do every year, and it's board approved, we look at different areas of focus. So like this year, it is mental health, maternal. We have disease states like cardiac, your traditional asthma, cardiac, that type of thing. And it has to do, obviously, with healthcare. Maternal health, we gave out multiple awards. We gave out awards to Mohawk Valley Health System for one of their programs, and we gave one out to ICANN for Evelyn's House. I don't know if you're familiar.
Oh, I was actually on the board when Evelyn's House was formed with the Family Nurturing Center. That I'm dating myself.
Yes. Yes. I always say when I walk in there that Donna's mom, who she did that program for, is looking down on everyone and saying, wow.
Yes.
So
go
ahead.
For the people who don't know what Evelyn's House is, it's a home that is for young mothers that don't necessarily have a place to go and need some support.
Yep.
And sometimes their children
exactly
stay as well. So
exactly, and it really is transitional housing, usually between 16 and 24, and they do parenting classes for them, wellness, teach them how to even take care of a child. It's really, really good. It's a really good support system. So, and the program that we supported in the maternal health includes case management, peer support, and nurturing. So, and then with Mohawk Valley Health System, we actually supported their centering pregnancy. So they're the only licensed centering pregnancy program which brings women together at the same time as a group to talk about certain things, educate them, and they are scheduled for their 10 prenatal visits together. It's almost like peer, yeah.
Well, that's interesting.
Very successful. And each visit is like 90 minutes. So, and they, in some populations, it's nice to hear that other people are dealing with what you're dealing with.
Certainly.
So it's a really great program. And the moms engage in their own care. They do their own weight, their own blood pressure, and they really teach them self-care, and they monitor their own health data. So it's a really, really good program that they have there.
What does someone have to do to get involved in or enrolled in one of those programs?
So they would call for either one. I mean, Evelyn's House, they can just call them. They actually have a director on site there. And the same thing with the Mohawk Valley Health System Centering Pregnancy. And if you can't, you can always call. Shayna Keller is our contact person at Excellus. And even if all the grants that I mentioned, she is the point person for all of them. So she knows all the ins and outs, what you would need to do. And then internally, we have a committee, a multi-cross-functional, that we review every application that comes in, and it's ranked objectively because, again, you don't want to have any unconscious bias when you're looking at it. You may know somebody who works somewhere, so we do have like a scoring system just so that we're being fair and with the ones that come in. I did want to highlight one community program that we did that was very successful, and this is such a good example of when people come together, how it can work. So there was a coalition with Mohawk Valley Health System, the American Heart Association, Excellus was involved, the refugee, the NCAAP. They got together during COVID to be the feet on the street to give vaccinations. So they actually went door to door, inner city, to get people vaccinated, educate people about COVID. So when that kind of died down, they started looking at blood pressure screening. And Mohawk Valley Health System started this program, and they heard that the American Heart Association was doing something similar. So they said, why don't we join efforts? Well, this coalition that did the vaccination, they shifted gear to high blood pressure. So Mohawk Valley Health System supplied a nurse to take blood pressures, and what they did is they traveled around in Oneida County. I'm drawing a blank on her name, and I shouldn't. Reverend Skates, what's her program that she does in the inner city?
I'm not sure.
Anyway, so she's like a food bank. People come, she has walkable food days where people can come drive through or walk up. So they set up shop there, and they identified people, some in crisis, that had to go to the emergency room for high blood pressure.
Wow.
And they traveled around, and Excellus provided facilitated enrollers so they can enroll people in health insurance. So it was a true community event. So successful. Now they're extending to Herkimer County this year that I'm really excited about.
I love to hear that.
Yes, I'm so excited. So I brought some, it's funny you say that because I was hoping you were going to ask me about a program, and I brought some statistics because to me they're alarming. So this is for this program for high blood pressure. So across New York State, the prevalence of high blood pressure is 27%. In Herkimer County, including Little Falls, rates are as high as 41. Rates in town of Webb are 40, town of Herkimer 38. So, a huge component of the program is community partners and to help people who aren't receiving normal care. Because again, as we know, blood pressure is a silent killer, and it's more prevalent in people of color. So if we can educate people, so what we're doing is taking blood pressures, telling them you can walk into a pharmacy and take a blood pressure. You don't have to have a blood pressure cuff at home. And just to identify the risks of it. And what we're identifying in Herkimer County a minimum of 450 people just within like the first 6 months of setting up different spots. And we try to partner with what's already going on.
Oh, good.
So that it's not already, and that's what happened, Johnson Park. That's who it was, Johnson Park with Reverend Skates. So she has monthly food giveaway days. So we went there, partnered with her. We went to some community food banks that were setting up already, and they would set up a table, and they would give out information and take blood pressures and tell people how they can be insured, how they could find a primary care, where clinics are, more just informational in a non-threatening setting.
Right.
I think that's why it was so successful, is that it wasn't that we were, we saw that, we got this claim in that you have, what I mean?
Show up at the door.
Yeah, right. So, it was really just people coming, and it's a sincere program, and it just shines through.
And there's no white coat syndrome in that setting.
Exactly. And that's the other piece of it, too. It's just really people helping people.
Mm-hmm. Great. Well, you talk about these partnerships, and that's actually a good segue for me, too, to let you and our listeners know that the Herkimer County Chamber and Herkimer Next is partnering with a group of Oneida County not-for-profits on a committee called the Mohawk Valley Community Engagement
Okay.
team. So what we're doing actually for the very first time ever is a nonprofit symposium in Herkimer County. It's specific to Herkimer County, and
Okay.
any nonprofit that provides services to residents of Herkimer County are welcome to join us. It'll be at the BME building on 5 Ann Street in Mohawk on May 18th. So more information to follow on that. But what you're talking about that's happening in Oneida County is something we'd like to model here in Herkimer County.
Sure.
So
That's great.
I
That's
think
great.
that there could be some synergy there.
Absolutely. And we're actually launching for the first time ever CBO summits. So community-based organizations. So we have them targeted. We're doing one in Watertown and one in Plattsburgh in May, and actually one in the Utica market, but it's going to encompass like Oneida, Herkimer, Madison, Otsego counties for people to come. And it's really just hearing about what we have to offer. Shayna will walk through the different kinds of grants we have to offer. Dr. Kyler, our Vice President of Health Equity, will talk about our health equity program. And then really, though, we want to kind of do breakout sessions to hear from the CBOs, because we don't know what we don't know.
Right.
And what are the barriers? What are the challenges? If you had a blank check, what would you do for the people you take care of in your community? And that may be our new focus area next year. You know what I mean? So we just don't know. I mean, obviously, mental health.
That's huge.
Huge. I mean, it's huge. And I saw even the Oneida County, their assessment, that's one of their focus areas. It's ironic, which makes sense, though. We're all the same community. So when they came out with their focus areas, mental health, I think there's a substance abuse, maternal health. I mean, it all aligns. So if we can all come together and kind of like pool our money to be able to, and not duplicate services,
right?
But complement. There's enough work to go around.
Sure thing, and that's another reason why we're doing the symposium. It's not a vendor fair. It's where the nonprofits will speak to each other.
That's great.
That leads me to another question that just popped up in my mind. What has Excellus seen in terms of data post-COVID?
Yeah. So interestingly enough, and not surprising, during COVID, everything was shut down. And then even after COVID, when things started opening up again, what we did find is people were still afraid to go for healthcare services. So we're just starting to catch up. And a lot of it was preventive services that we're trying to have the mammograms, colonoscopies, to say, don't just skip those 2 years and then think, well, I'm okay, I don't really need to go. So we're trying to do like a big education push. I know from the hospital's perspective, their surgery rates are going back up. And I think sometimes the wait lines may be a little bit more now because of these were elected surgeries that were put on the back burner.
Right.
So they're trying to increase it. But again, they're challenged with the nursing shortage and staffing shortages across the board. So some, nursing homes, some rehab centers, they're not even filling their beds, even though there's a need because they have no staff.
Right. Yeah, that's a tough situation all the way around. Everyone is in such need.
I do, and I think it's still going to take a few years to get back up to that. Again, we see our claim counts going back up, so, to go to more normalized. But it did take a while. It wasn't like once people were allowed to go back that we saw it shoot straight up. But I think now we're getting back to pre-COVID baseline.
That's good.
Yeah.
Any spike in trending diagnosis?
Mental health, children. I think what helped that, though, was our telemedicine. Because
telemedicine is great.
Yes. And you know what? When you look at, there's always a silver lining in anything bad. And I would say that's probably one of the silver linings that came out of COVID, because a lot of doctors were a little hesitant, especially the baby boomers. And I could say that because I'm a baby boomer. They wanted to see that patient in the office. They're not going to do it over. But then they had no choice. No one was coming in. The offices were shut down. And again, what we try to say is it's never to take the place of a physician. It's a tool to complement them. So if someone's even going to their doctors a couple of times a year, maybe you do one telehealth, maybe you do one in the office, and there's certain diagnoses that should never be done telehealth. And again, that's where I think the physician's expertise and years of experience come in. But now I think there's a more of a confidence with it, and it's not anything that's unknown anymore because they had to use it. But I will tell you, for mental health, telehealth has been, the numbers have skyrocketed. And I think it makes sense because if you think about it, in some cases, it even makes someone with a diagnosis of a certain mental health aspect, there's a screen there so you almost feel a little more comfortable.
Sure.
And you could still have the continuity of care because you could still recommend the same doctor. So it's not like you have to get used to another clinician every time. You could recommend the same one. And in some places, there are no mental health. So to be able to have the telehealth, I think it's been very helpful.
Yeah, that's an issue is the mental health providers. There's such a lack. I mean, I know there's a waiting list.
Yes.
And thank goodness for telehealth.
Yes.
And also, it helps with the travel. I mean, I've got a doctor
the
down
other
in New
thing.
York City, and I do telehealth a couple times a year and
Yes.
also take visits. But it's a godsend.
It is.
It's amazing.
And I think, too, for even the work-life balance or for single parents who now if their child has to go to the doctor, even if they know it's an earache or they know they just need some medication, they don't have to take time off from work, take the child out of school. And as I said, sometimes in the North Country, it's an hour each way. It's a half a day of work.
Yeah, it is.
And now I think, too, the next generation, they love it. This is what they were brought up with. So for them, telehealth is perfect for them. Perfect.
Okay, so we're going to actually take a break right now for just about 1 minute, and we'll be right back with Eve Vanderwall.
Visit My Little Falls and stay connected with the latest news, information, and events in the city and the area. Our mission is to generate interest in the community and connect residents in a more meaningful way by facilitating deeper conversations about how these stories will shape the future of the Mohawk Valley. Join thousands of weekly visitors who stay up to date with feature stories, interviews, videos, our event calendar, and print publication, the Mohawk Valley Express. It's about timely local news for the community, keeping citizens informed about important issues, telling about the people who live and work here, and giving locally owned businesses the opportunity to reach a very targeted audience of locals and tourists alike. It's a whole new form of media-rich content developed specifically for today's mobile lifestyle and listeners. You can download our iOS app in the iTunes Store, listen to our country music streaming radio station, or sign up for a weekly newsletter. Stop by today at mylittlefalls.com. You'll be glad you did.
Thanks, everybody. We're back here with Eve Vanderwall, Regional President of Excellus BlueCross BlueShield. So, Eve, we've been having a great conversation. I've been enjoying this very much.
Me
so,
too.
are there any other areas of focus at Excellus?
Yeah, so I know I touched upon some of the cardiovascular and mental health, maternal health. We're also focusing on diabetes, preventive care, osteoporosis, and even with the elderly, anything for fall prone, prevention. And under that, though, we really want to focus on, which is something a little different for us. We're just in the beginnings to be able to collect some ethnic data, like ethnicity. So associated factors can be race, ethnicity, language, sexual orientation, gender identity, and anything that falls within social determinants of health. And I know that's a huge catch-all that everyone's using now, but it does matter because if you don't have food and you don't have housing, you're certainly not going to take care of your health.
True. Yeah, well, actually, when I did read a report recently, a community health assessment that showed, I think, 27% of the answers said that homelessness was a reason why they didn't have medical attention,
Right.
In one particular topic.
Right.
So
And
that amazed me.
Well, I think there's there's a fine line, too, that, I remember when I was volunteering at one of our local soup kitchens, I used to volunteer with someone, and that person became then a recipient because him and his wife lost their jobs, the economic downturn. I mean, and I always say it could be any one of us. It's just life happens.
So many people, it's just one paycheck. It's a matter of
Exactly.
it's
60% right now are
Is it?
living paycheck to paycheck.
Right.
Just saw
more
that
than
stat.
ever.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's nuts.
That's unbelievable. We also look at economic stability, education access and quality, social and community support, healthcare access, obviously, healthcare access and quality, and even like the neighborhood and building the environment of the neighborhoods. Like, we've done some grants on lead. As you know, in Ida and Herkimer counties, their lead levels for children or are towards the high side. So anything we can do to partner with the counties, the Community Foundation has that big initiative. Again, pooling the community together so that we can make a bigger impact.
It's so important, all those partnerships and synergies, and
Yes.
you might find out, well, gee, we need help doing this, and hey, they do it and they do it great, so it's a
Right.
natural fit.
Right.
It's so important.
And I think they are trying community-wise to resurrect the funders. They used to have, I don't know if you remember, they used to have a funders coalition, because I knew I was part of it years ago. So anyone that gave funding out to any not-for-profit came together like 4 times a year, so you could share what you're doing and know what the other entities in the area were doing, so that if you heard of someone putting in, like if someone came to Excellus for a specific grant, I could say, oh, you know what, we don't fund that, but I know you might want to check with the United Way, or you might want to check with Committee Fund. You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
you knew who was funding certain things. And I think, I think it just fell by the wayside, changing of leadership in certain organizations. So I believe the Community Foundation is trying to resurrect that to get people again around the table from Herkimer and Oneida counties. And I think that would be great. It kind of goes to what you're saying. For Herkimer County, you're trying to bring people together.
Yeah, we want to build bridges,
Right.
open those lines of communication.
And a lot's changed since COVID. So people that might have been doing something pre-COVID might either not be still in business, or might have had a shifted their focus area.
Yeah, there's so many people. There's all of this. Well, it's not unemployment, but there's so many vacancies with
Right.
jobs, and you wonder where these people went. And I think so many of them, just based on my knowledge of the chamber and the people I've met throughout the years, they found they turned their side gig into something full time.
Right.
And so it's not that they're unemployed, but they've just found their own niche.
Right. Either some were forced to, or some just said, you know what, this is the time to try, so I'm going to try it.
Right. Hey, it's working. So
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, and we're fortunate. I say fortunate that, I think in Utica proper is that over 20% now, I believe, are refugee populations, and they bring a whole good, different perspective.
Yes.
And even the restaurants, there's so many different restaurants.
There are.
So many.
Yeah, you could go someplace to eat different every day.
Right.
Utica in
Right.
that area. You
It
really
is
could.
True. Yeah, we're very fortunate in this whole area. I mean, usually we rotate our corporate board, and we're like known for the best food.
Oh, yeah. It's a Utica thing.
It's a good thing. That's a good thing.
It is
Yeah.
a good thing. It is a good thing. But I also see a lot going on. Herkimer County is just booming. It's so exciting.
There's some momentum here.
My
I'll tell you what, it's taking off.
Oh, my
And
gosh.
It's nice to see.
Yeah, because when I come here, I come down Higbee. And so I go by, the Adirondack gas station there. And I mean, there's no space left.
Right.
It's so exciting.
That's exactly
Even
it.
across
Yeah,
the
they need
street,
it.
the Schuyler Business Park, that's filling.
Yes.
That's filled too.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
it doesn't look it yet, but they're building over there. So
they
yeah.
are. Yeah, they're building some really interesting things that will come out soon, hopefully.
great.
But I think land is what they're going to be looking for next. So that's a good
That's a
problem
good-
to have. I'm
it
sure
is.
there's places to go, and revitalizations of downtowns and things are all taking place. And there's more synergy than ever
Sure.
before, and people willing to get in there and help.
Yeah. Well, I
Yeah.
think it's great. And I do think that everyone brings something different to the table.
Mm-hmm.
Just like we always say, if you need us to show up, if you want us to come, like even the school districts, we could put our facilitator enrollers there on kindergarten sign up. You try to think differently.
Yes.
That people would not, so they don't have to make a separate stop, and educate people on the products that we have and what's available to kind of complement what they already potentially have. Like I know some people don't realize they can be insured by their employer and not know they can get Child Health Plus for their children.
Right.
That's a big one.
Oh yes, yeah. That's all based on income, and
Right.
it's a good coverage.
Right.
It's
Because I will
very
tell
rich
you,
coverage.
since the pandemic, our the biggest growing products are our safety net and Medicare. Because I think, too, on the safety net side, that people who either lost their job due to attrition, like downsizing or whatever, so now they're income eligible to sign up. So we're like, you look at the numbers, and we're glad we were there to be able to help them. And now they may be getting employed, so it's a shift from our numbers are staying the same. It's the mix that's shifting.
Right. Oh
You
yeah. Well, Excellus has done a great job of reinventing themselves whenever necessary.
Yeah, we try.
Your portfolio it changes constantly to the needs, and there's always that battle with trying to keep the premiums low. That's always ongoing.
Right. And I think too, even with like these CBO forums that we're going to have, what can we do differently? Are we missing something? Even from a product perspective, is there something they're hearing that we don't know about? Because, we take it all in. And then we bring it back and say, okay, and I know even in Medicare, we had a really good year this year, and I think because we really were creative on the benefits. And we went out and did listening tours of our seniors who wanted like X amount of dollars that they could use for hearing aids or for vision, like that they can like kind of flex.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Versus saying you're getting this for this benefit. So it's really listening to the community all the way across the board.
And seniors today are so much younger than they used to be.
Goodness. Yes, they are. As I approach.
I know I'm still in my 20s.
Aren't we all?
Yes.
Yeah. So, any other parting thoughts you wanna share with us?
No, I just want to thank you for having me here.
Oh, it's been great.
You guys do a great job, really. The chamber does a great job down here. I always know if I want something to know what's going on in Herkimer County, I just go to your website, and you just have a lot of activity going on. And I commend you because you represent the small business, and they're our backbone.
They are.
They're our backbone too. I say is Excellus too. I mean, we have a lot of small businesses, and they're resilient and what they've gone through over these last few years, and they're still standing.
They are, yeah. And so many of them have so many different needs. It's just about being diverse and trying to adjust your needs to meet theirs and fill a gap. So
yeah.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Yes.
Welcome.
But thank you so much to come here, and it's always a pleasure to speak with you.
Thank you.
I always enjoy your company.
Thank you. Likewise.
So much. But if anybody would like any more information about Excellus, you can go to Excellus BlueCross BlueShield.
Yes.
And if you'd like any more information about the Herkimer County Chamber, it's herkimercountychamber.com. And always give us a call at 315-866-7820. Have a great day, everyone.